Aloha, Mr. Hand. That's right. Today we're going to go all the way back to 1982 to hang out at the mall, make out at the point, and get publicly shamed by our history teacher at Fast Times at Ridgemont High.
You know what? I'm really glad I gave you that line because I feel that you delivered.
Thank you.
And, you know, obviously I'm the one that picked this movie, and I want to tell you something that's been weighing on me. Are you ready?
Yes.
All right. So you know that every year, me and my kid, we do a couple's costume for Halloween. And one year I was Spicoli, and my kiddo was a slice of pizza. And no one got it. Like, no one. And I had a sign, like, on a stick that said, Aloha, Mr. Hand. And no one got it.
Well, I'm not surprised because I know, and we'll get into this, but I know that everyone loves this. It's an iconic film, but very, very boring. I don't know that anyone cares.
You know what? I feel like you shouldn't be trying to hurt me in public like this.
I would have gotten it.
Thank you.
Well, you're so smart, Amy. Maybe other people are just not at that level. I also, besides thinking it's really boring, I think last week I had a moment where I was like, did I ever see this movie? And I didn't think I did. And then when I watched it, what I realized is I did see the movie. It's just so dull that I forgot it.
Okay.
Just let it go.
All right. Well, first of all, I want to say, remind me, and I'm going to put this picture of us up on the Instagram because it's fucking hilarious. I had the, what is that thing called? That like Long Beach, like sweater. It's like Mexican inspired. That's Spicoli wears.
Like the Baja.
Yeah. I had like a Baja thing.
Potato sack. That's
that sort of thing. Yeah, I'll put it on the Instagram.
Okay.
But I will say I was shocked when I Googled Roger Ebert's review.
Our boy, Amy, you'll learn this during the podcast. We have a third host who doesn't really exist here.
He's departed. He's departed.
Yes. But he breaks into our spirit every single week, and we bring in our hometown boy, Roger Ebert.
Well,
love it.
First of all, he gave Fast Times at Ridgemont High 1 star, which I was shocked by. And he said the whole movie is a failure of taste, tone, and nerve. The waste of a good cast on erratic, offensive material that hasn't been thought through or maybe even thought about. I got to tell you guys, just reading that right now, I had a total PTSD back to my MFA. This is 100% a sentence that David Bradley would have written to me on my story. The whole story is a failure of nerve.
I mean, I don't fully disagree with Roger. And I mean, honestly, like in these revisits, a lot of times I do find his reviews to be very refreshing and accurate, actually, years later. Who knew? But what did you like about it, Adrienne?
Well, honestly, I think because I saw it as a teen, I always feel like it says something real about being a teen. And maybe because there's a lot about girls wanting to have sex and then finding that sex real disappointing.
Yep. That is real true.
Oh man. Okay, let's get into it then, right? Like, first of all, should we?
Well, you haven't even introduced our guest.
I'm just about
That's
to
what
do
you're
it.
getting into.
Yes, that's what I'm getting into.
All right. Okay.
Who has ADHD in this room? It's me.
I was just saying, it's not me. I wrote this down. We have an outline. She put her paper down and just went off.
Just like, let's go. So embarrassing. Everyone, this week we have Amy Sumpter with us. She is a Chicago comedian.
Yes.
One of our favorite people in the whole wide world. She's a killer high kicks kicker.
Yes.
And she is also part of the all-female band. She's crafty. Woo. Beastie Boys cover band.
Yes.
Badass.
They're amazing.
Oh my God. I'm so excited to have you.
Yes.
Thank you for having me.
We're thrilled that you're here.
Thank you. I'm thrilled to be here. I'm really excited because I listen and I'm always like, I got things to say about this movie. So yes.
Okay, before we talk about the movie, let's talk a little bit about what are you guys into this week, pop culture wise? Elizabeth and I were just talking about how when these episodes come out, it's going to be like one of those things where it's going to catch all the people who didn't watch these things on the first round. Which is fine because you know what I've been watching a lot of, as always, Veep, which has been around.
That's one of your comfort shows.
Yes,
you watching Veep is me watching SVU.
I know.
Yeah.
When I watch Veep, do you worry about me? Like if you're like, what are you doing? And I'm like, I'm in bed playing hearts and watching Veep. Is it a signal to you, or you're like?
I like to refer it to as Adrienne's rest period. She just needs to like check out. Like this is how I feel about SVU.
Yeah,
you know, people.
yeah.
I had to talk to my therapist about how much I've been watching SVU,
Yeah.
and she was just like, "Well, out of all the addictions you've ever had, Elizabeth, it's probably the best one."
Yeah. Yeah. You're getting a message how
But
to
I was-
protect yourself.
Yes,
you
and I
know.
was like, I think sometimes we have to disassociate. We have to like,
Yeah.
just check out. And you're like that with Veep. And then
Yeah.
anytime you talk about anything, Adrian's like, there was this episode of Veep.
I love it.
Well, there's that episode where Christopher Maloney is on. Isn't that his name?
Yep.
Yeah, and he's fucking, Selena Meyer, who's the vice president. He's also a personal trainer.
Such
And there
a
are some
babe.
moments where he's like improving lines. Like he's supposed to be like a dumb personal trainer. And they're at like, some important event and someone's asking him like what he does. And he's like, I'm also an author. And they're like, oh, have I read anything that you've written? He's like, get a bod like God. Like you can tell he's making up the titles as he goes, and it's so fucking funny. Every time I watch this episode, which is a lot because I do a lot of Veep, I'll text her and be like, it's this episode.
Right.
The other episode I text her about is the one where Selena Meyer walks through the glass door. she knows.
I love it.
Those are the two.
Yeah, Amy, what have you been doing?
Oh God. During the pandemic, I watched a disgusting amount of TV.
Yeah.
And I'm just continuing to do
Oh,
that.
good.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
proud
yeah,
of you.
yeah.
Proud of you.
Yeah.
I've been watching the Ted Lasso.
Okay.
Oh,
Elizabeth's
I know.
really into that. She just got
Just-
into it.
It's so full of heart. Love it like a milkshake. Where's it going to go with the third season? I don't know. They were just in Amsterdam, and I'm like, I got to get up on Amsterdam.
I want to go there
Yeah,
so
I wanna
bad.
I want to go there so bad too.
Yeah,
I'm like,
yeah.
all of
Girls
the
trip.
sites. Oh,
Yes.
girls.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Are you? So you're not watching the third season yet?
I am.
Oh, you are.
I am.
It's so good.
It's so good. I know. I'm loving it. And then also just watched Bad Sisters. Also
Love
amazing.
Bad Sisters. Did you
Holy-
watch that?
No, I keep thinking
Apple
about it.
TV.
It is
Yeah.
so well written, and every episode is like an onion,
Yeah.
and like you just peels away, peels
Yeah.
away, peels
Sharon
away.
Horgan is the coolest
Oh my God.
woman in the world.
Yes. Also,
Love her.
Bono's. Okay, talk about nepotism,
Yeah,
baby.
yeah.
Bono's daughter in it, and
Yep.
she's incredible.
She is
I kind of
good.
love her.
Yeah,
like
she is good.
I'm like, what?
Yeah.
But we're not the same.
Yeah. Listen,
Daddy's rich.
if you
She's
two
amazing. I want to be
was
friends with her.
coming to Chicago, we're going. I'm
Yeah.
a no embarrassment U2 fan.
I
think
once
U2 is
bought a
coming to
ticket day
Chicago.
of.
Oh, good. Then let's go.
Didn't
Yeah.
we just talk? I would never.
Yes, you
But
would.
No, I would
You'd
not.
go
Oh,
for me.
you would
I
go
don't-
and know
I don't-
every flippin'
Yeah.
song.
There's
you know
there's
it.
no question. I would know. I was a child of the '80s. Thank
Hello.
you, Amy. I know.
Yeah.
But okay, is this your contrarianism though?
No.
Okay.
It is because I generally do not like to be in big concerts.
Word. Respect.
It's very
No,
hard
we'd
for
get,
me.
we'd get our friend Jenna to get us a hookup. We'd get good seats. I'd take care of you.
Yeah.
Girl.
Listen,
I have a whole panic
That's
attack.
why I
in
want to
those
like just be
situations.
wealthy.
Yes.
I don't even.
Life
I
is so
don't-
much easier.
Like I just want to get VIP to Riot Fest,
Yes.
and I want to get season tickets to the White Sox,
Yes.
even though they are terrible this season.
That whole
But,
stadium
you know,
smells like an onion,
and
too.
I love it. I
That's
love
also
grilled
a thing.
onions. I
All
just want to
right.
eat them all day long.
I am so thrilled that you're singing
Yeah.
today because the last few episodes we've had, we've been singing theme songs. from the
yes.
movies.
yeah.
Yes.
And so
yeah.
I was like, today I was driving and I was
Yeah.
like, what it could be our theme song? Well, I've been very obsessed.
Don't ruin this for me, motherfuckers. I'm sorry, did I just write your new theme
Christine,
song? You know?
Christine,
We
we've
need
got
to
a
cut
theme
it.
song.
Yes.
Not gonna get a good rating because of the swearing, but
No,
It's fine.
that's
It's
good.
fine.
No.
We this week I've been because last week we watched Fame,
Uh-huh.
and so I sang the Fame song all week
Yeah, yeah,
long
yeah.
in the shower
Yeah.
in my
Yeah.
car, and I got really into rock ballads, like
Yeah.
power ballads this week. So I've been listening to like "Love Hurts" by Nazareth.
That's
like
a great
30
one.
Love hurts, and so the whole time I was driving here and listening to Meatloaf, I was like, "Oh, what are we gonna sing from this movie?" And Amy just took care of that.
We
So
got the
thank you.
beat first song.
Yeah.
Oh,
Dude, the
good
soundtrack
one.
of this movie
the soundtrack
slaps.
alone
Yeah.
was amazing.
It's fucking great. I
Yeah.
love it. I love it.
Yeah.
And the mall scene that it made me really nostalgic.
Yeah, yeah.
Because mall culture is dead. But then I just saw a tweet
So
and
fucking
somebody
good.
was like, someone's gonna be like, oh, wouldn't it be great if all these online stores were like
In
in
a
a
mall.
place, and then they're gonna think that they invented the mall. And I'm like, you are 100%. That's exactly what's gonna happen. So
Well, this movie opens with like the best scene, right? Like you're seeing like people like moving around, and Fast Times on Ridgemont High is like written in this kind of metallic like car font. And when that happened, I was like, I'm really into this already. Sorry, excuse me.
Okay, she's fine. She's going to cough a little bit. So we're going to do our recap a little bit differently today because, again, it's like a montage flick that has like a bunch of characters. And last week when we were talking about fame, we got a little off the rails. We're like trying to figure out how to talk about all the characters. So we're just going to talk about each character. It follows 1 year in high school. Right. And we're just going to be like, this is what each character's story is. And then we're going to get into the interesting shit.
Yeah. Let's do it that way.
Okay.
Like
I'm going to start. I'm going to start with Stacy, who's Jennifer Jason Leigh, who Roger Ebert, I got to say, he was a little creepy about Dolly, also equally creepy, I would say, about Jennifer Jason Leigh. Like, he was just like, she's just so fresh and talented. She is. She's a naive 15-year-old, and she's really interested in sex. 15, by the way. She's young enough that her mom still tucks her into bed at night before Stacy sneaks out to fuck a 26-year-old stereo salesman. That was
also
awesome.
when she met him, still not in high school.
Right.
Yes, and she also lied. She lied to him.
Icky.
Yeah.
It got really gross.
And he fucks her in like a dugout.
Also gross.
Though he puts a blanket down. He puts a
And
blanket
then
down.
you just see his butt in the distance.
Yeah.
Just,
Yeah.
ugh.
We'll
It
come
was
back.
awful.
We'll
It
come
was
back
awful.
to the sex. A nice guy has a crush on her, but instead she bones his best friend and ends up getting pregnant. She has an abortion, a very casual abortion, I would say.
Yes.
She handles it well.
They tend to be casual.
Okay,
We'll
come
as
back to it.
conservatives think that we just have them all the time.
Right.
It's like go to 7-Eleven,
Right.
pick up a Slurpee, have an
Yeah.
abortion, go home. It's
Yeah.
like a good day.
Yeah. So anyway, she has an abortion, and then she decides maybe sex isn't exactly what she wants. Maybe she wants romance and a relation. Poor Stacy. Whole life of disappointment on the way.
It's there's no question about it.
Yeah.
And then we have Linda, who's Stacy's best friend,
Yep.
and she's played by the gorgeous Phoebe Cates.
So pretty.
She's so pretty. She reminds me of a friend of mine. But I keep thinking, I was watching it, and I was like, she was one of those dark-haired, like white girls that I
Yeah.
always wanted to be like because I
She's
couldn't be the
actually
blonde girl.
biracial.
Oh, is she really?
Yeah,
She's really pretty.
Yeah.
Wait, what?
That
really?
has
That
Filipino
explains
heritage.
everything.
Yeah.
That's why she's so
Yeah.
beautiful.
Oh, I'm so glad to hear that.
Yeah.
Asian nation rise.
I knew you would love that.
Asian nation. And she's much more experienced about sex and has a fiance. And where? Chicago.
Conveniently, you never meet him or see him.
Correct. And we
Never.
don't know what he does for a living because he's just always like out of town.
Yeah.
We assume he's a pilot, probably.
I think she says that, but I don't fucking know.
the
It doesn't
worst,
matter.
The worst part is that when she graduates that year, he doesn't show.
He says he's not coming to the graduation,
Yes.
so she
at
has
an
to break
early
up.
age, she finds out men are always going to be disappointing.
True. Then we have Brad, who's Stacy's brother.
So
and
cute.
he's played by Judge Reinhold, and he's very cute. He's a senior. He's planning for the best year of his life.
So cute.
Of course, everything goes to shit. He gets fired from All American Burger. And he's thinking about breaking up with his girlfriend so he can fuck other people, but then she dumps him.
Yep.
Then he's working at like a Long John Silver's in a pirate outfit.
Yep.
It's very sad. But at the very end, Brad takes his power back when he thwarts a robber at 7-Eleven.
Also, the one thing you forgot to say is he also shows up for his sister
Yes.
for the
So
abortion,
sweet.
which
And
is the
he's
best.
in the smallest little T-shirt. He looks so cute.
He looks so good. I was like,
Yes.
oh my God, you're
And-
so hot.
Maybe I didn't put it in because I was so conflicted about like the only care being shown between a man and a woman was just between these siblings.
Yes, but I
It, like,
love
hurt
that.
me.
It was so precious.
I
It was
know,
so precious.
But it hurt me. I was like, why can't Brad be nice to his girlfriend?
Well, he was nice to her. He just wanted to break up with her because it was his
So he
senior
could fuck
year.
other people.
Yes,
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like that
Anyway.
But
happens.
she kind of did the same thing to him.
Yeah,
so,
so
kinda
it
seemed
works
like,
out.
I loved when she
Yes.
dumped him.
The next person we were talking about is Rat. Rat's on the honor roll and has the biggest crush on Stacy.
Uh-huh.
His bestie Damone is always coaching Rat on how to get with a lady, and he's pretty embarrassing. Damone is not Rat. Rat's so sad.
But look, I put in a quote for you about what he told him to do.
Where is it?
Right here. If you're going to make
No,
out,
yeah,
put
right.
on side 1 of Led
Zeppelin.
Zeppelin 4. It's so funny. And then later it cuts to like Rat's driving the car with Stacy and it's like, "Da-na-na-na-na, na-na-na." That's so funny.
Well, so Stacy and Rat finally go out on a date, and I want to point out, I think that when he asked her out, it was very cute.
It was
Yeah.
so
in the way
cute.
that he does it.
Yes.
And then he and Stacy are on a date. Stacy, as
At
we
a
said,
German restaurant.
And he forgets his wallet.
Yes,
And there's this whole
whole
thing where
thing.
Damone meets Stacy. But the biggest point is that Stacy invites Rat back to her house, and she makes a move because she's like super into sex. But
Yeah.
he's freaked out because he actually just likes her.
Yes.
And then when he leaves, instead of like actually having sex with her, she's thrown off, and now
Yes.
she's crushing on Damone.
Okay. I know I don't want to get like too deep into the details of all this, but I do have to say that one of my favorite things about this movie is when she invites Rat back to her house, she's like, I'm going to change. And he unzips her dress for her and she puts on this robe. Like, what's
This white
happening? This
robe
has
from the
never
hotel.
happened.
Yeah.
She invites him into her room. You know, she's sitting on the bed all sort of sexy like, and he's freaked out. And she's like, what do you want to do? And she's like, do you want to look at my photo album? And he's like, okay. She gets the photo album and then she reads the cover, which says, photographs. So funny. And then she starts showing him the photographs. But why does she read the cover? It's so good.
So weird. And it's so
weird.
perfect for how awkward they were.
Well, and she's so weird in this
15.
white little robe.
It's so
just, like,
weird.
so strange.
Okay, and then we have Damone, who to me is like a low rent Uncle Jesse, if Uncle Jesse
yeah.
was in high school and was the town scalper and bookie.
Also clearly like a 40-year-old man playing
Yes.
All of
Yes.
these people are way too
Yes.
old.
Yeah.
Yes.
The whole time you're like, these
Well, they
people are
need to
probably
be
about
old
to like.
if we're going to see their tits.
Right.
Like they can't. Yeah. But it did also take me back to the days. Remember, you used to have to go to like Marshall Fields and wait in
Yes.
line to buy tickets
Rose
to
Records,
shit.
man. Yes.
Wild. Anyway, Damone has a lot of retrograde theories about women and the way to get chicks. He says the way to get chicks is to act like you don't care if she comes or stays. It's like, all right, buddy.
And there's lots of shots of Damone like looking at women and women looking
Yeah.
back at him because
Yeah.
he's so hot.
Anyway, of course, when it's time for him to actually fuck Stacy, he does a terrible job.
Lasts about 3 seconds.
He comes immediately, and then he's like, "Didn't you feel it?"
And she's like, ugh. She's like, I think so.
Yeah, and then he feels guilty, of course, because this is his friend's lady that his friend was really into, and so then he treats Stacy like shit so he can deal with his own emotions. And then Stacy's like, "BT Dubs, I'm pregnant. Can I have half the money for the abortion in a ride?" He's like, "Sure," and then he fails at that too.
Yes.
Yeah.
I will say that scene also made me really sad though because he did try to get the money,
Yeah.
but instead of being like a man, which
Yeah.
again we're talking about a teenager,
Yeah.
right? But instead of being like, look, I didn't get the money, but I'll
Right.
at least give you a ride to the
Right.
clinic.
Or at
Right.
least like I showed up with this amount of money. I
Right.
couldn't get half. Like he could have done so many
Yeah.
things to make
Yes.
it better, and he just
Yeah.
proved that he was terrible.
See, this is why I like this movie, though, because I do feel like it's sort of true. Roger Ebert
yeah.
thinks it's a comedy. That's why he doesn't like it. I don't think it is a comedy.
I think it's like a typical like high school story. So
Yeah.
like there are highs and lows.
Yes.
And also Roger Ebert wrote Valley of the Dolls. So what the hell?
Actually, that actually is an excellent movie.
Okay,
That is an
okay.
excellent.
But like Valley of the Dolls, that's the best title you can come up with.
We'll put that on our
Even though
list.
I respect
it's
him.
the dolls. The dolls are all the drugs.
I know. I've read the
It's
book.
so good.
I've read the book.
Okay.
Okay. Anyway, then we have the most famous character.
Yeah, Spicoli.
Spicoli.
He's like the resident stoned sufferer guy,
Yep.
and I love him because I actually think he's the most entertaining. Which I know
Yeah.
infamously he is the most entertaining in the film, but I guess I didn't remember like how stoned he actually
Yes.
looks in the film. Like his whole body, his mannerisms,
Yeah.
like everything is so on top of
Yeah.
like one point he like walks into class with a bagel in his pants. And I was like, I fucking love this guy. Anyway, he's played by Sean Penn.
Mm-hmm.
And his nemesis is the history teacher, Mr. Hand. And famously, Spicoli orders a pizza to the classroom, and Mr. Hand loses his shit.
Yep.
And he starts talking about whose time it is, and who belongs there, and who doesn't belong there, and what you can do at the time. It's such a great.
Again, I loved that part because I feel like our children would 100% be like, Spicoli's right. That is what it is now. Like, because so Mr. Hand is like, this is my time. Spicoli's time is like, well, aren't I also here? So isn't this our time? And I was like, that is literally what Gen Z is saying.
But also, I totally
it is sharing.
identified as Mr. Hand.
Yes.
I was like, this kid would have flippin' drove me wild. I would have been like, get here on time.
You're like,
son.
rules.
Yeah, I'm like, come on.
Was Mr. Spicoli on the night of graduation,
The graduation
party,
dance.
the graduation dance? Spicoli's getting ready to go to the party, and Mr. Hand shows up at his house, and he's like, you've wasted my time. Let me take some time to make that up with you here in your house.
Yes.
And they go through this whole history lesson. Of course, Spicoli's like, and then that dude was like all beefing with that other dude. And then like at the end, they like all became friends. Like,
Yeah. Proving he learned something.
Yes.
Yes.
And so Mr. Hand very proudly is like, okay, well, I'll let you go to your graduation dance.
Yes.
And then we get to see Spicoli like jump up on the stage and sing with the band.
But that was great.
And that was the end of the scene.
And it was great. And then, okay, we have a great person of color. Though I also have to say Damone, to me, looks like a person of color.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure about it.
I think he's meant to be Italian. I don't know. Anyway.
I mean, Damone, maybe.
I don't know. But we have Forrest Whitaker.
First movie.
So
Forrest Whitaker.
cute. He's
Yes.
so cute. Did you also notice Nicolas Cage, I think, is in it too?
Yes.
What? Where?
And
He's
there's a part where there's
Nick
like a
Coppola.
cheering. Right, they're cheering.
Yeah.
And they're at the football game where
He's
there's some
an
kind
extra?
He's an extra. He's like gets up off of his seat and he like cheers. And I was like, that's Nicolas Cage.
I think he also was flipping burgers when Old Boy got fired.
At All American
yeah.
Burger?
It's really small. It's like a real
really
quick.
like you blink, you miss it kind of thing. But then also the two stoner buddies that hang out with Spicoli
Yeah.
are Eric
One is
Stoltz
Anthony Edwards.
and Anthony Edwards. Yes, I was just
So
like, I know
wild.
those people.
Anthony Edwards looked great with that
looks
stoner
so good.
haircut. He looked
What a
great. He should
babe.
get that back.
What up?
Anyway,
babe?
Forrest
I'd still
Whitaker.
sit on his lap.
Yeah, 100%.
No big deal.
He's the star football player. He has a badass car. Spicoli goes on a joyride with Jefferson's brother, crashes the car, but then comes up with a brilliant idea to blame it on the rival football team.
Which
Yes.
brilliant.
Yes.
Like I was like, oh shoot, this is
Yeah.
how he dies.
It motivates Jefferson to kill everyone on the
Yeah.
football field.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then we get to see a montage or like almost a ballet sequence
Yeah.
of him just like hitting
Yeah.
people and everyone
Yes.
flipping over him.
Yes.
Or he's like jumping on top.
Yes.
It's very cute.
It's fucking great.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's the people. That's the characters. I want to.
That's pretty much the movie.
I want to kick off the discussion though about sex, obviously, but with this quote that our boy Roger Ebert wrote about this movie. Okay, and you'll see why. Okay, so this is what Roger Ebert says about sex in this movie. He's talking about Stacy. She's curious about sex, so the script immediately turns her into a promiscuous sex machine who will go to bed with anybody. And then her sexual experiences all turn out to have an unnecessary element of realism, so that we have to see her humiliated, disappointed, and embarrassed. Whatever happened to upbeat sex? Whatever happened to love and lust and romance? And scenes where good-looking kids had a little joy and excitement in life.
There's a lot to unpack there.
Wait,
Thank
you
you.
forgot this best line.
Oh,
the best part of that line is
Instead of all this grungy, downbeat humiliation.
Okay.
There's so much to say about this.
Obviously,
have a lot
Roger
to say.
Ebert never had sex as a high schooler. You know what I mean?
Obviously.
Obviously.
At least as a woman.
Yeah, literally. Okay, so my interpretation was when she starts that job and she's talking with her good friend Phoebe Cates, she feels like, at least this is how I saw it, was, oh my gosh, Phoebe is so like she knows
Worldly.
what she's worldly,
She's sexy. She's got a fiance.
She's making
Yes.
sex seem like it's no big deal.
Yes.
Blowjobs are no big deal.
Yes.
So I felt like she was trying to keep up with what she
Yes.
thought she was supposed to do. But then I would argue at the end, we kind of figure out like Phoebe doesn't know what she's talking about. I would argue Phoebe was a virgin. Okay.
I
Oh.
100%.
Yeah.
Because when they're cutting the bologna,
Yeah.
and she's asking like how long it would take,
Yeah.
and then Phoebe's kind of like pausing,
40 to 50 minutes.
right?
Yeah. I'm like, oh my God, you're puss. Your
Yes.
poor
Yeah.
puss. Like, get some ice packs. Okay. Like, oh my God. But like, obviously there. So I felt like it was very real with, remember like when you were younger and you were in high school and somebody would tell you something and you would just be like, oh, this is real. Like in our high school, we had the rumor that this girl used a hot dog to masturbate and it got stuck and then she had to have it surgically removed.
Everybody's
Yes,
high school has
everybody's-
this-
yeah,
this
some
one.
version of it.
And I remember telling my
Tampons,
mom that.
hot
My mom
dogs,
was like,
cucumbers.
that's impossible. You could just get it out yourself. You could just reach up and get it. And I was just like, what? So, like there's
Your
just
mom's
so many.
like, I could just put a fist
She's
right
like, yeah,
in it.
literally.
You guys not know about the cervix? Block shit up.
You just put your hands in there, move it around. You can use it as a
when you were
pocket.
born, I had you as a whole human and two other hands. And
Yes. Well, actually, I was an emergency C-section.
Oh,
so
sorry.
that's a
Oh,
brag.
okay.
And that's a
Okay.
brag. Didn't go out that way. Hey. Actually, I kicked my way out, coming out of my mother. No big deal. But no, I just thought it was really interesting that the movie portrays sex very real. And
Yes.
sexual experiences incredibly realistic. And like, in no way did I feel like sex was even, like if I had been in high school and watched this movie, I 100% would have been like, oh no thanks, you know what I mean, like I'm good,
I
what I mean?
definitely watched it as like a young person though. I must have been about, because it came out in 82, which would have
Yeah.
made me like not quite 10. So I know I watched it as a teenager, and I definitely probably was having sex because I started having sex like probably close to 16.
I was a real late bloomer. So
well, I mean, I will say that I also found sex very disappointing, but I liked it. I didn't care, actually. You know, it's like one of those things where I was like, well, if this is what it is, it's fine. Like, I like it. I just like having people touching me and like wanting to be with me. The hardest thing about the scenes that I found, and that was like, I don't think I understood when I watched the movie, but now as an adult, I look back at my sexual history, and this is going to sound really like womp, 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 but I just like had, every time I would fuck someone, it would be like, then they acted like I didn't exist.
Yep.
And that crushed me now as like a 49-year-old woman, that I would like ever let a man touch me and then like act like he did not fuck me.
Yeah.
But I mean, I definitely in high school had men tell me, or boys, children, if you will, say like, I don't want anyone to know that we're like hooking up. And I would still fucking do it.
Damone does that to Stacy.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm saying. It's like that whole scene really ate up my heart last night a little bit for that.
I mean, you were also thinking about little Elizabeth.
Yeah,
little,
exactly.
You know.
I mean, for me, reading Ebert's quote, I was like, okay, like this movie was directed by a woman, and you can tell that it was. It was directed by Amy Heckerling of Clueless fame. And I'm like, this unnecessary element of realism. I'm like, I think this is actually very important for women to see that this is how fucking men, boys. I mean, I did not find either of those sex scenes where she gets laid to be inaccurate at all.
At all.
To any experience in my fucking years as a sexual person, I was like, yep.
I would also say that the thing that I think was happening in the 80s, just like because we've been revisiting so many movies, is that there was like an idea of like spectacular filmmaking, right?
Yeah.
Like where you have these people that can't be real and they're not really touched. This is a very like, you know, these people, you've met these people, except for Spicoli. I've never met a Spicoli like that. But, you know, I think the storytelling starts to shift from like dreamy movie magic to like movies start to get more and more gritty, more and more real. Like you start to read more about people who actually are living in this world, you know, versus like a big movie star, you know.
Also,
and
she has
change
to pay the price. Well, and this is awful. I don't want to say it like this, but she had an abortion, and they say the word abortion.
Yeah.
And they are very clear. There's no like, did she not? Like, like how?
Unlike Fame. Last week we saw Fame, and the girl who gets an abortion in Fame is just crying.
Yeah.
And the only reference to the fact that it's an abortion is a nurse says, will that be charge or cash?
Oh my God.
Yeah.
And it's just like, let's normalize abortions because it happens, but also like, I think it depends on the person. It could be a big deal. It could not be a big deal, but it didn't ruin her life. And I thought it was awesome that her brother didn't judge her. Her brother was there for her. And if anything, her brother tried to put on airs like, I'm such a cool guy, but at the end of the day, was like a really good guy.
Yeah,
and
he's
kind of
super sweetheart.
Only
he was
good
so
guy.
hot in that moment.
I would also say, if I could just do a shout out to Planned Parenthood, who helped me facilitate my abortion. Thank you, Planned Parenthood, for being there. And I really, you know, it changed my life. It made my life much better. I think I would actually think that today I would be dead. Like I would not even exist in this world without that happening. And I think it's really important for people to understand that it's not your fucking story, right? It's not your story. Everyone should have a Judge Reinhold attitude.
Yes.
Like he was so great. So in the scene, he drops off his sister in a bowling alley.
Well, first of all, Damone ditches her. He's supposed to pick her up, and then she's like, Brad, can you drop me off?
Right. And he thinks he's dropping her off at a bowling alley. And as he drives away, he looks in his rearview mirror and he sees his sisters crossing the street. So he flips the car around and she goes into her appointment and he understands where he's at. And he just waits outside for her, which I think is so fucking great. Because also he was going on into this day. He didn't have to do this, you know?
Yeah.
So he goes back and she comes out and she's like, oh no, you know, and they have this conversation. And the best part was he was like, who's the father of the baby? And she doesn't want to say. And he said, you know what? It's cool. Yeah. You got to keep your secrets. Because you know what? None of your fucking business, Brad.
Yeah.
You know, it isn't. And I love that he like did that without judgment, without any kind of conflict, without any kind of like.
There was no shame.
Yeah.
There was no.
There's no, I'm going to tell mom.
Right.
Yeah. There's no threat of that. Also, it killed me because, you know, she has to leave and like she almost doesn't get to leave because no one's there for her.
Right.
And if anything, like she did just have a medical procedure, so she should have somebody there for her. So the fact that he was there, I was like, oh my God, like this is really sweet.
It was sweet.
It was sweet.
And I think to handle the topic of abortion is really funny to me.
Yeah.
Because I know that people try to care, like handle the topic with care, but the fact is that women have to do it. Like there are women who do it, right, and need to for whatever reason. And it really isn't there. Like it isn't anyone's business. I don't know why it has to be part of our storytelling in terms of like, you know, be careful about what you say or what you do or how you handle it. And I think that if anyone's ever like, how am I going to handle my sister's abortion? I think you should watch this scene.
Yeah. Because you don't have to handle it because it's not yours. Yeah. Because I see what you're saying and I totally respect it. But I also feel like we're still living in a time where, like, oh my gosh, the amount of people who are making decisions over women's bodies, which, you know, we all know they shouldn't be. But they'll say things like, a lot of these men don't realize women have multiple holes down there. Like, some of these men think we're urinating and having children out of the same hole. And I'm just like, if you can't point to the clitoris and know what that is, you shouldn't be allowed any, you know what I mean? Like
100%.
Yeah.
There's also that whole, you know, speaking about men who don't fucking know shit.
Yeah.
There was like, you know, I we've talked about this, I think, on the podcast, but you know, I had a pretty abusive relationship, and I had not talked about it for years until a politician was running for office, and the news was just repeating what he said, which was like, your body would know whether or not it's been raped because then it'll abort itself.
Yes.
Do you remember
Yes.
that?
The body has ways of taking care of itself.
Yes, if you were raped, your body would just automatically abort the baby. And I was on the blue line and coming back, and it had been like, I mean, almost like 15 years or, you know, it had been a long time since I even thought about it, you know, really. And I had to get off the train and like, just like full on panic attack, like, and I couldn't figure out what was going on with me. And then I was like, oh shit, it's time to tell someone, you know?
Yeah.
And that, the idiotic kind of, mental math that these people do to like say like people shouldn't have them is insane. And I don't really like, all it does is create rage for me right now. So like right now I'm just feeling like rage. I don't even like have anything to say. I'm just like,
no, respect. Because if the body is gonna, like, the body obviously doesn't have ways of expelling things that shouldn't be there. Like, that's not real. But the body does have a heck of a way of reminding you of your past traumas at the weirdest times.
Yeah.
So, you know, I've been that person crying on the train before. So cry it out, girl. Yeah. Cry it out. But also, like, I really did. I love that moment between brother and sister. And again, he didn't make it about him. And it's crazy because it wasn't written by Amy. Like, Cameron Crowe wrote the movie. So, and I don't hate Cameron Crowe. Like, if anything, I think he's pretty good at writing roles for women. Because, like, let's be real, there's a lot of movie makers where very one-dimensional female characters. Yeah. But in a way, everybody in this movie is sort of one-noted, you know? Like, the liar, the slut, quote-unquote the slut, you know? But I felt like it worked. Like, I didn't think it was boring. I thought it was interesting to see their journey. But it also, I think it was such a great time capsule of the early 80s. Like,
well, abortion would have been a very like
hot topic
and taboo. And I do think I noted the fact that like Stacy's very matter of fact about this abortion. Like she's already set it up when she tells Damone she needs the money and a ride. Like she gets the abortion. She's not like, we don't see her like emotional. We don't see like, you know, this huge drama. And I do think like in a sense that really like does a service to women. Right? Like, you know, not that like all abortions are easy and mean nothing and, you know, whatever, but like they don't frame it as like Stacy's life is ruined because she's had this abortion or Stacy is going to be traumatized because this happened to her. Like it's just a part of her life and her life moves on.
Right. And she gets to graduate high school.
Yeah.
Like she had this abortion. She's going to graduate high school.
Well,
as opposed to
technically
like,
she's going to be a sophomore.
I was going to say,
she's young.
I think she was either a sophomore that year. Yeah. She's got a couple years left.
But at least she doesn't have a 4-year-old at senior year, right? Like that's the whole other thing.
Yeah.
But when you're talking about the characters, I do think that's one thing that I'm kind of seeing a lot in the 80s movies we watch is that it's a lot of like kind of these characters milling about and like having more of a slice of life moment as opposed to like a full plot story. And so I did like it that way. Like I was like definitely those classifications of people I understood, and I definitely as like a teenager understood that was a world that existed. But I also so Adrian says this a lot.
Ooh.
Which is like, she's always talking about how she watches movies or like reads books, and she's like, that's how my life is going to be, where I'm always like, that's not any way that my life is going to be. That is untrue about the dances in this movie. So I always thought dances and parties were going to be like the way that they are in movies, and they never are.
No, never.
When you're a teenager and you go to a dance, everyone's just in the corner talking to their friends. It's the most uncomfortable thing ever. And I did think that part of the film, I was like, oh, I guess maybe I'm wrong in that world. Like, it's just like a place I can't.
See, I identify with both of you because there were so many movies where, like, reading, Sweet Valley High or Sweet Valley Twins when I was a kid, like, oh my God, am I a Jessica? Or, I know
right. Our origins. Shout out to our origins.
You know it. Like, loved all of those. But I also, I'm a pretty realistic person. And there are definitely times when, like the high school parties I went to were for the drama club. And like, nobody, drama nerd.
Some can be some of the biggest freaks in school.
Oh, that's 100%. And bands.
Smoked my first clove cigarette. Loved the clove cigarettes. But like, I didn't drink. I didn't, like I wasn't doing drugs. Like I was a real nerd. But I was in love with a lot of gay men.
Yeah,
I mean, still am.
I was like, follow the path.
It's literally.
You know all the words of Phantom of the Opera, and you think I'm beautiful just the way I am.
Done and done.
Like, come on.
What did you guys know about sex and pregnancy? And and Elizabeth, especially you, because you have daughters, and I'd love to know what you told them, because what I knew, so I'm growing up, I'm watching the fucking Growing Pains, I'm watching Family Ties, and I feel like there were, very special episodes that were geared towards this. And so my full understanding was like getting pregnant would be the worst thing that could ever happen to me ever. And it was my job to ensure that did not happen to me and both of my parents were high school teachers. So I should say that too. And so they were presumably had seen some girls in high school pregnant. And so it was like drilled into me. Like, this is cannot happen to you ever. Like, how did you guys grow up that way? Like, how did you handle it with your daughters?
My mother never talked to me about sex. As a matter of fact, she didn't tell me about my period. So that was a real big surprise for me.
Wait,
it was.
She never told you that. I'm interested now because I saw, Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret.
Good.
Yeah.
It's so good.
Yeah. I saw it yesterday.
Yeah, same.
So I'm like, wait, you were just bleeding out your crotch and had no idea?
We're going to get personal.
Well, yeah.
We're going to get personal. Don't ruin this for me.
This is the moment. Yes. This is the first moment.
This is just embarrassing for my mother. My mother and my father had a canopy waterbed that was made out of wood, and it had like a mirrored ceiling.
Yeah.
Right? And so I'm like laying on my mom's waterbed, talking to my best friend on the phone, and I'm like moving my legs up and like open and closing. And I noticed that my underwear had something on it. And I was like, oh no, that's weird. And it was also brown, like in my like lady area. So I was like, how do I have anything brown on my like lady area? So I took off my underwear, I threw it into the washing machine, changed my underwear. Same thing happened again. Yeah. Like just seconds later.
Yeah.
And
how old are you?
At this point, I'm probably 8th grade. Okay. Maybe 7th grade.
Oh, a late bloomer.
Yeah. Well, I think 8th grade is like what, 12?
No,
11?
No,
14.
I was in 6th grade.
Yeah.
Oh no,
I get it when I was 12.
Then it was probably closer to 5th grade.
Yeah.
Okay, I was probably like 10 or 11.
Okay.
Because my mother was super shocked because she didn't have hers till her 17th birthday, I think. Yeah, she was like late. So, anyways, I'm on this bed and like it's happening. So I'm just like taking off my underwear, throwing in the wash, taking off my underwear, and then at some point, I start to feel like very shamed about it.
Right. Because you're like, what's happening?
Yeah. So I start throwing my underwear into the trash. And I'm just like, I'm going to go to bed. Like, I don't know what's going to happen. And I can't call my mom because this is the generation that's like, do not fucking call me unless you're dying. And I didn't think I was dying. I just didn't know what was happening. So I go to bed and my mother comes in and I'm asleep and she like shakes me and she's like, Risa, wake up. Risa, wake up. And I was like, yeah. And she's like, are you okay? And I was like, yeah. And she's like, are you bleeding? And I was like, yeah. She goes, where? And I just point to my puss and I just start crying.
Oh.
And I'm just like tears. Like I felt like I did something wrong, that like something was wrong with me.
You needed Judy Blume.
For real.
And my mom was like, no, oh no, this is your period. And like it never occurred to me because I saw the pads in our like house, but I just like wasn't my business.
Well, right, because she didn't tell you.
Yeah. And so I just like didn't know. And then I just like crying.
You didn't see the Cosby Show episode where Claire takes Vanessa out for her very special day because she got her period.
I probably did see it, but I don't know if I necessarily connected the dots. You know, I'm just like something brown is coming out of my vagina.
Yeah.
And it is brown at the beginning.
Yeah.
Yeah, because mine was too.
Sometimes
and like
at the
you're,
end.
but like you're expecting you're having like, even if you're told what it is, like.
Right. You're expecting.
Yeah.
So when my kids, you know, started, they were around the age, they were very aware of periods. And the way that happened was V had said to me at one point, I was at a friend's house. She's like, oh, mom, can I get a Tampax? I want a Tampax really bad. And I was like, what? And I go, do you know what a Tampax is? And she said, oh, they're these bright satin skirts that you twirl around.
She wanted a tutu.
There was a Tampax commercial where like these ladies were dancing.
Of course, because once you have your tampon in, you can be
you're
free.
Always dancing.
You can be free.
And then I had
tennis,
to,
you can go swimming. You could do all sorts of things.
And then I turned to Violet and I was like, I hate to tell you this, but one day you're going to get to an age where you are going to start to menstruate. And she's like, what is that? And I was like,
that is not the word you use.
I did use menstruate. And then she goes, what does that mean? And I go, well, you're going to bleed from your hoo-hoo.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, anyways, at that point, I think I got her a book on like puberty and sex. And then I also got Z a book at some point for puberty and sex. And we just like never really talked about it after that. I was like, I'm here to answer any questions. Read this book.
Didn't what'd you tell them about like protecting themselves against an unwanted pregnancy?
Oh, that's
how they phrased it to me as a child.
The books really, these books all covered it. And they knew that I was a big proponent of
Did you know she read
control.
the book?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
No, they read it. You know. And then I was like, I'm here for any questions you have. And, you know, they never, I think they were too embarrassed.
Can I tell you how I'm keeping my son from impregnating people?
I gave him a book too.
Yes, she did.
He
was, yes. But
he loved it.
he does. She did. He was like only like 9 or 10. I mean, he was young enough, and like he was like, "Holy shit!" And
yeah, well, because he had some questions about.
He did. I think it was a Christmas gift.
I love this.
But he went to some sex ed at his school, you know, and they told him that the age of consent in our town, which is Evanston, not a suburb. Anyway, they told him the age of consent was 17. And that's, you know, legally. He has some questions about how they enforce that, you know, with the police and whatever. But he also still truly believes that he's got to keep it locked up till he's 17. And you know what? I just keep drilling it in. I'm like, that's exactly right. 17. Because I'm like, this dude is not prepared to do.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the only time that they ever asked me about protection is once Violet had asked me about whether or not what I thought. She was like, what do you think about abortion? And I said, well, I don't think about abortion. I always use birth control. And so then he was like, oh, yeah. So both of them were like willing to get onto birth control very early.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it was like,
That's
just
awesome.
just tell me that when you want that. You don't have to give me any details
just be like,
about
I have
your
a pimple.
life.
I have a pimple. Let's get you on the pill.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. That's exactly what
Also,
happened.
the pill helps so many other things as well. Like,
Yeah.
I'm someone who gets raging cramps, and when I was on the pill, oof, it turned them way down. And I was like, holla at your girl.
You should get an IUD because they don't have.
That's what we love.
That's what we love. What? How did your mom tell you about sex?
You know, I grew up in a born-again Christian household.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I've known you for like a decade. I didn't know that. Wait, is your family still?
Well, you know, like when I was growing up, I would go to like a church youth group, and I heard more about sex there. But my mom
Of course
was always,
you did. Those Christians.
Oh
Those
yeah,
rascally
Like
Christians.
just you gotta save it for marriage, save it for marriage. And I was already like, I'm saving it for marriage. But like, I also didn't date. You know what I mean? So like nobody was asking. But like. For like my mom though, like she would talk about it, but also like I also would hear stories about I have aunts, and like basically the first time my aunt had sex, she got pregnant, and so I heard that growing up. So and
that's a tough one.
I also knew my dad was a rascal. Like he went to prom 7 times. He had 6 sisters. The sisters would set him up with friends. So I knew my dad got around. And I don't know, like because of the church thing and because of, you know, my beliefs and my faith, and I was like, I'm saving myself. But then, like, as I didn't date, I just continued not to date. I was like, I guess I want to try this, you know? So I was a late bloomer. but also I didn't really have any opportunities, you know what I mean? But also, even now as an adult, like I just got out of a relationship and I had like I skipped a month for my period. So I had a pregnancy scare and I was just like, what the hell? And we were using protection. So I was freaking out. But I also wonder how much of that is just, oh fuck, I'm having sex and now it's on the table. But I'm also older. So I'm also like, and I also had spent a few days with my sister and her kids, and I love those children. I would take a bullet for him. But it really cemented, this isn't for me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I love to sleep in the morning, and children don't.
No.
Yeah. So I will be number one aunt in the world. But,
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's amazing how, like my mom was always very honest with me. Like I knew to wear deodorant because my mom was like, you smell. We're going to do this. Like I fought getting a bra because I was one of the first girls, but I got a bra in 5th grade and I would wear sweaters in the summer to hide it. And
You were the tall girl. And Are You There, God?
I
It's
was
Me, Margaret.
literally like, I identified with her so much. I don't think people were talking shit about me because I think they all knew like, oh girl, she ain't having sex with nobody. But like I had giant boobs. I was 5'9" when I was 12.
Yeah.
Like 6th grade. I
Yeah.
was 5'9". And I look back and I'm like, I was like, if I could go back in time, I would not kill baby Hitler. I know that's terrible, but I'm not doing it. I'm going to go back and talk to myself and be like, you weren't fat. Like you weren't fat. Like you weren't fat.
That's every woman.
Yeah,
Yes.
I think that's so real. Did you, when you had sex for the first time, were you like, this really sucked, or how did you feel?
I literally asked him, are you in me? So I didn't know. So, and he was Irish and he was like, Amy, you never say that to a man.
Oh,
And,
shit.
Yeah.
Was he just like, it was not an impressive
Because like
dick?
he actually had a beautiful penis and like I really did. I
Wait,
still,
was he in you?
He was.
Oh.
But it was, I think it was just like, people talk about how it's painful and it's this and it's that. And none of those things happen.
Right.
It wasn't painful for me for the first time.
Well, it's funny because, no, that's a little too much details.
It's never too much.
Offline.
It's never too
Offline.
much.
Yes, I was going to say, because I'm ready to talk about how this guy fingered me to death. And then then sex only lasted
there.
for like
Yeah.
a second.
Been there.
That could be
I
very
was like,
painful.
this is the worst part is, I think we've talked about this. Our first boys were like Jason, both named Jason, and we lost our virginity on our water beds. Right.
Love
True.
Yes.
Love it.
I was like, I'm pretty sure that's a memory.
I had a waterbed in
true.
in
Yeah.
school.
So like as I explained, there's like the mirrored part of my mother's waterbed, and that's where I lost my virginity. And so
I
I
can't
got
believe
to
you
like
say this on the podcast. I know she's
Well, 'cause
never
she's
going
never
to find
listened to it.
but like, what if she did? I mean, like that.
She's definitely not
go
interested
in
in
your own
anything.
room.
It was the waterbed was much more large. It was larger
Listen,
because I
if-
had a twin bed.
Yeah,
Yeah.
do it. You're supposed to
Yes.
fuck in a twin bed. That's what you're supposed to do.
Anyways, I didn't have the rules of fucking for the first time.
I'm just
saying.
like,
So-
we doing it? Let's do
Yes.
it.
Listen,
so we were like on the bed and he's like rocking and rolling with his fingers. And then like I'm looking, like I'm on my back so I can see my face.
Of course.
And he's like looking down at me, or he's like on top of me so I can see his butt. And the disappointment of looking at my own face was like just the disappointment and seeing my own face be like,
Yes.
that's what it was.
Yes.
Like this
Yeah.
is what everyone's crazy about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Made me really, really sad. It still makes me sad today when I think about what I look like in that mirror.
You guys, I really do want to take a second to shout out my high school boyfriend, Jason, if you're listening to this. Jason was a very, lovely lover.
No.
And
Go on
he was
him.
like a great guy and great at the sex. And we fucked for a few years. And like, I think, the sex that I had post my divorce was much worse than all the sex I had leading up to it. Yeah, I would say literally the adult sex I'm having with adult men is worse than like this guy who was like, 17, 18 years old. And like, because the thing is what I see, and Amy, you tell me if you see this in the dating world, is just that like men just like, if they don't care about you, they don't give a shit. They're not giving it any effort. They're Damone,
Yeah.
You've taken off your clothes. They've entered you. They've came. And then you're like, well, wow. Okay. They're leaving. Cause that's the other thing. Damone sort of like almost shames her. He's like, I gotta go, Stacy. I gotta go. And then he keeps telling Rat and other people that Stacy was a very aggressive girl.
Yes.
I mean, like, he's like, that shit is fucked, but that is still how men behave today. But my high school boyfriend, Jason, when we fucked on his waterbed to R. Kelly's Down Low on repeat, he was a great guy. You're a great guy, Jason.
Do you think the difference might be to like when they're like you're younger, there's this whole like curiosity thing, like you're willing to kind of push a little bit of boundaries and see like what feels good and what doesn't, whereas like older men are kind of like, I know exactly where I need to do and like get out
For themselves?
Yes, that's what I mean, for themselves.
I think that men who are single and walking around fucking people right now that are in their like 30s and 40s have huge holes in their hearts. I do. The ones I meet, I do. Because I think that like I could never treat people, just even people I meet at a gas station, the way that some men think it is appropriate to behave. And I hate to be like, oh, Adrian's the man hater on this podcast, which I clearly am.
I'm with you.
I know. But I don't like that being like the general vibe, because I'm raising somebody who will be a man, and like I also want to have hope for myself that I'm going to meet like a nice guy. But I really do think that like
I think a lot of people need to do better.
Yeah.
They need to do better.
Yeah. I mean, my high school boyfriend was invested in pleasing me.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And also, like, who raised him?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
That's what I'm saying. The sex I had that was like Stacy's sex has been post my divorce, like in my 30s till now.
Yeah.
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 Which is a real bummer, guys.
Yeah.
It is a real bummer. I'm really sad.
But I also think too, like,
better to have it shitty first.
but then, like, I'm really torn because I feel too it's dependent on who I'm with. Like, and there's definitely been the dudes that I've met that I'm just like, we both know what we both want. But yeah, it's always been so terrible.
Yeah.
Because like the Irish guy that I lost my virginity to, like he actually was like, when things were good, and it got better. And like he, turned out to be a shithead, but in the moment he wasn't. But some of my I'm with you. Like I'd personally, like, I don't hate men. I'm hopeful, but I'm also time and time again just really disappointed. Mm-hmm. And like, you guys, like, come on, do better. Because also, I just read somewhere too, like the crazy political people that are so anti-abortion and anti-female pleasure and anti just women. They're also pro like procreate. Mm-hmm. There's like studies that have proven that when a woman orgasms, it actually helps insemination.
Oh, I'm sure.
So like by design, God created this woman's body to feel pleasure. Mm-hmm. So you're denying God technically, okay, by not pleasing the woman.
I agree.
Amy for president.
Yeah. So learn how to use your dicks, folks.
Well, it's amazing because it's right there on your phone. Like they can literally look it up, and they can literally look up women talking about.
Yeah.
But the other thing, you don't even have to do that. You can just be like, "Do you like this?
Yes,
like,
exactly.
Is this going well?"
But I'm just saying, like,
that's
just check
sexy.
in. I'm just saying the education.
Yeah, you
at
can
this
find
point
anything.
is so easy to get.
Yeah.
Right. Like you don't
thing.
need a lot.
My kid had found porn, I think, by the time he was like 9. I mean, but that's normal.
It's
they
world.
do.
Yeah.
And the conversation I had with him was really like about like the reason that you shouldn't engage with this is because this is not what anyone actually wants to do in real life. And so if you put all of this into your brain, then by the time you get to actually like taking your clothes off with somebody, you're going to be so fucked because you're going to be like, I'm going to fucking smack her. I'm going to choke her. I'm going to come on her face. I'm going to pull her hair. And I'm like, it totally precludes you from having like any sort of like actual connection with like another person. And
also like, thank you, Amy Heckerling, for showing us women having disappointing sex.
Yes.
And like Roger Ebert, I did love you, but like
I told him bad read on his part.
Yeah, like you didn't get it.
Yeah.
But then also thank you for telling me you were a virgin for as long as I was.
Yeah.
But because I'm a woman, I'm like, yeah, that's how it really is, dude.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it. Like, let's celebrate bad sex. Well, not celebrate it, like,
But tell women it happens.
But tell women it
for sure.
happens. But also, like the porn industry is literally teaching people nothing. And it is really sexy and hot, like when in the moment when you're like, yo, I like that.
Yes.
I do not like that.
Yeah, that's why Outlander is one of the greatest TV shows ever.
Oh my
But-
God. Yes.
Real
Where she's
quickly-
teaching him how to fuck her.
So you guys,
Also him.
it's just a series. Now our podcast is just us all getting
I know.
overheated.
I'm sorry. I just
So hot.
I can feel the
So
smoke
hot.
coming out of my puss. I'm like, oh my God.
In talking to like the different genders too about sex, one of the things I remember saying to Violet, and this is definitely based on my sexual experience, was I said to both, actually not to just Violet, both kids, but that's that I think that they should really enjoy sex, and I want them to love it, and if they have questions to like come to me or like look it up or whatever. But I was like, the one thing I'm asking you guys to do, and that I think you really need to take to heart, is never have sex to prove anything.
Yes.
Yeah, that's good advice.
Only because I feel like I spent so much time feeling like somehow I was being justified as a person, or that I existed as a person, or that somebody might care about me just because I slept with them.
Yeah.
And every time it was disappointing for me and for them. And so I thought it was really important to be like, you should be able to be a slut, but also have self-respect. And I don't think that was a conversation necessarily happening when we were all kids, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I think
And
either
also-
you're like a hooker or not, basically.
Well, that's the thing too. Like, there's a part of me where I really respect Jennifer Jason Leigh's character, because like she does keep trying. She keeps getting back up on that horse. But I also feel like she's also competing with like an idea that doesn't exist, because Phoebe Cates lied to her. But at the same time too, like the Fast Times, like it's so funny. Like like it was literally the night I watched it, I was like, oh, now I understand the title. Again, I was a virgin for a very long time, just like Roger Ebert, you know. So
I found out a lot of my friends didn't have sex until they were way into adulthood. Like, actually, I think I'm probably one of the youngest people that I think in my friend groups.
I was
which
16.
is surprising. Yeah.
Ooh, I'm 16, going on 17. Yeah,
I will say
love it.
the thing that I really identified with Stacy about her, like, and that also bummed me out, was when it's at the end. They're at the pizza place. She's doing her job, and she's like, I think I'm gonna like stop having sex. It's not about sex. I'm gonna focus on like romance and relationships. And I was like, fuck. I agree with this line of thinking. This is what I do. If something doesn't work out, I make a big shift, and I'm like, this will be the thing that works out.
Yeah.
I'm like, God damn it, Stacy. More disappointment on the way.
Yeah.
Yeah, like don't even focus on romance. Focus on how the man is treating you, or how your partner is treating you, and like whether or not you want to be with that person. Because sometimes like you meet someone, like that's another thing I hate, when dudes are like, well, I'm a nice guy. I feel like if you're telling me you're a nice guy, you are not a nice guy. But also, let's be real, there are a lot of people who are just, like, ooh, they get an idea of what they want, the hot person, the hot whatever. And let's be real, if I lined up all the men I've been attracted to in the last like year, there is no rhyme or reason to it. So it's just, what floats your boat, like.
I mean, how would you define somebody that you think is like a nice guy? Like, I think that's a hard one, right? Because I think sometimes it has to also do with like chemistry and the way that the two of you move in the world together. So it's hard to be like, I would want these things in a man. Like, there's certain things, right? Like, I want him to not be a dick, and I definitely want him not to talk shit about women and things like that. but like, I think it's hard to define sometimes what that looks like for every person. And I don't know that anyone who's like going around going, I'm a really nice guy, is actually understands what that means at all.
No. And also, like, I'm gonna be real, like, my last first date, like, after the first date, I was like, I really dig this dude. And literally, because I could tell that he'd been to counseling and like had done some self-reflection.
Sexy.
And that was
a nice
sexy as
thing.
hell. And this man was like 6 inches shorter than me. And it, like, you both know, for the audio people, I'm 6 feet tall, so my height has always been a blocker. There's some, like, I have dated men in the past who are shorter than me, but there are a lot of dudes that get really hung up on it, and he wasn't, and that was sexy. And he, like I would tell him something about myself, and like he was interested, and he wanted to know more. And I noticed that we were having an actual conversation. There was a balance. And literally, as I was talking to him, like, I was getting turned on, like, more and more and more, because I was like, oh my gosh, like, this guy really, like, he sees me, like, he's listening to what I'm saying. And like, that's another thing, like, I've been in so many almost relationships, or I've dated men in the past where I tell them something and they don't remember, or I tell them and they're like, I can tell that they're like, we're not connecting in any way. Like, and sometimes too, it's not even about, oh, he's into Star Wars and I hate Star Wars. No, I'm not talking about that. It's just like, or even just like beliefs, you know, like, I'm sorry, I'm on the apps, or I'm about to go back on the apps. I will not date someone who's conservative. Like, it's not going to happen. Like, if you don't believe that I should have body autonomy, you know, no, it's never going to work out. And like, I truly don't understand women who can fuck dudes who don't believe that they should have the right over their own bodies. Like, I don't get it.
It's so weird.
It's so weird to me. And like, I get it. Like, that guy might be great, but like, no.
Well, I think what you're talking about is like a core belief system. And a core belief system is very important in order for any relationship to move forward. I think like here's where I think some men get tripped up on is that when we ask you to listen, when we're asking men to listen, it doesn't necessarily mean like listen to what I'm saying and do what I want you to do. It is listen to what our concerns are and the way that we feel like we need to navigate through those concerns and have empathy.
Yes.
Right? And I think that it can get so black and white with men sometimes. They're just so black and white. Like, well, you told me to do it this way. And it's like, no, I didn't. I wasn't instructing you. I'm not your fucking mom, you know, but I am trying to tell you that I am hurting in a certain way, or I have certain needs. And these are the ways that I think will help me be able to move forward. It may be different for you, but if you're listening, you'll get that.
Yeah.
And they're just not.
And sometimes too, it's like that listening to like react, or it's even like, okay, I'm about to vent and I just need you to listen to me vent. And then we don't even have to talk about it. I just need to vent. And sometimes, you know, I don't know, like it's amazing as I get older and I'm like, man, like some people just don't get it. And even like some friendships, you know, like, let's be real. We all have like friends that were like, oh, I know to talk to this person about X, Y, through Z. I know not to talk about this with certain people. So, yeah. And I don't know, like with my mate, like I'm looking for like a partner in crime. Like we are equals. It isn't, you know, like gender roles, schmender roles. Like I hate it. I'm also, I know that I'm not the, you know, the girliest of women. So I kind of love this, you know, gender is fluid and it's a spectrum. And like, cause I know like, yes, I identify as female and yes, I'm looking for a man who identifies as a man, but know that I'm cool if you want to do my laundry. You know what I mean? I'm cool if you want to come over and like clean my house for me because I hate cleaning. You know what I mean? And also like I don't mind, you know, if you're sick, doing that for you. You know what I mean? Like again, like it's a partnership.
Like
you
Amy's
know,
like, if you're sick,
if you're sick,
I will come to
is she gonna change a tire?
Yeah.
No. Right. If you're ill, I will also do your.
But also like I remember like driving, like I was driving me, my ex-boyfriend, and it's so funny because like you know, he was very forward thinking, but he was like, yeah, like I have to admit it kind of bothers me that you're driving.
Oh God.
Like, what? But like, that was also the last time we saw each other, so you know, no big deal. But but he also was
it was really the car.
He was also a terrible driver. He once like blew a red light. We almost got hit by a car.
Yeah.
Like, so I was just like, you're not a great city driver. So let me do this. You know what I mean? Like, so yeah. Just want to find a man who's okay with, you know, me existing as is.
Yes.
You know?
It's a very low bar.
Low bar. Yeah.
They could meet it if
they
could meet it if they wanted
like
to.
you want to bump uglies?
Yeah.
Great. You want to make out? Awesome.
Yeah.
Just let me exist.
Yes.
And not, you know,
have an opinion.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're going to wrap up, but I did want to ask you guys, what high school film or like, you know, TV show or book would you recommend, especially if you don't like this movie, Elizabeth?
Yes. Oh, wow. That's really a hard one. I obviously love Bill and Ted.
Oh my
Excellent.
God.
I do. I will say, because I think them
you never cease to surprise me.
First of all, it has Keanu Reeves, one of the most upstanding men in Hollywood to this day.
Love him.
To this day.
Yes, I'm just saying that you never cease to surprise me.
Yeah. It was one of my favorite movies. I watched both shows. But I think the reason I liked it so much was, one, it's very Seven of me to be like, I'm into an adventure because they travel all over the place. But the other part is that their whole message is like, be excellent to each other. And I think that that's like basically what I built my life around. It's basically my whole personality, right? Like, how do I walk through this world with like doing the least amount of harm, even when you go back in time or try and whatever it is. So that would definitely be number one. I hate to say this, and I haven't seen it in a long time, and maybe next season we'll just do a whole revisit of Beverly Hills 90210.
Oh, hey.
Could we watch that a whole season and go through all the episodes?
No, because that was the era of TV where each season had like 30 episodes. So but we could maybe watch like some key episodes.
Maybe we should do that. But I remember that I loved it and wanted my life to be like that.
Obviously, everyone did.
But I feel like if I watched it today, I would be reminded that they were all really shitty.
Yeah.
So I think it's worth to check some out.
Yeah. Amy?
Okay, so I was obsessed with the movie The Boy Who Could Fly. It was always on HBO. Loved it. It was like a little indie movie. Like Fred Savage is like a child in it.
Oh.
And Herman Munster plays like a drunk neighbor. And this family moves into this house and there's an autistic kid that's next door and he's always out of his window pretending to fly. And you're like, can he fly? And then like some weird stuff happens and you're like, can he fly? It's really good. Obsessed with that movie. And then also anything by Judy Blume. I was obsessed.
Obviously.
And like I too saw Are You There, God? It's
were
Me,
they
Margaret.
high schoolers? I can't remember.
In
Judy Blume?
Yeah, and
it's like preteen.
Preteen, right?
Preteens. And then there was Forever. And okay, Poplar
I have been
Creek
saying to her,
Library.
she does not want to read books, and I'm like, we need
No,
to
I want to
read
read books.
Forever.
I just don't want to read.
You got to read Forever.
Forever is my entire like sexual awakening.
Yes, Poplar Creek Library had a version that somebody had gone through and highlighted all the dirty parts.
Of course.
And when I say dirty, the sex parts. And I was like, hell to the yes.
Yes, his dick was named Ralph.
It was
first
amazing.
Of all.
It was amazing. So
Yes.
thank you, Judy Blume.
Everyone should read Forever.
Yeah.
Obviously, I love all the classics. You know, the John Hughesies, the Mean Girls, Center Stage, all of it. But I did want to recommend a book I just read. It is a current book. It's called True Biz, and it is about a group of high schoolers who are deaf, and they're at like a school for deaf kids, and there's so much interesting stuff to learn about deaf culture. It's very like fraught in a lot of ways, and yeah, you got to read it. You got to learn about the deaf culture. It's fucking cool.
Oh yeah,
amazing. I love it.
Yeah. I have a TikToker who's for some reason I've gotten onto deaf TikTok, but like I have a couple that are like interpreters for concerts, and I just like love watching those clips because they get so hyped.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Max is taking ASL as his language.
I love that.
I love that. Amazing.
Yeah, and another thing I will say that I learned in True Biz that these two kids are like interacting, and one does a sign for chicken, like the meat, and another guy corrects her and says like that's not the correct sign, it's this, and she's like, you're being fucking racist. Like, because there's ASL and then there's black ASL.
That makes sense. That completely makes sense.
It makes so much sense, but
sense.
it's not something you would have known if you were not in this culture. So I really recommend this book. It's gonna teach you a lot, and it's got a good story. So,
I love it. This has been so much fun, you guys.
Yes, I'm so glad you came.
Yes.
I feel like we could talk about high school forever because it was like the worst time of my life.
The worst.
And sex.
Which I mean, think real quickly, but Adrian's last question was about like why Americans are so obsessed with high school, and I think it's a great question, which we can revisit in another movie because I'm sure we're going to see another high school movie.
But also, why is America so obsessed with the youth?
Yes, that's also on my list.
Totally disrespect people, and I'm just like, I'm sorry, like. If you peaked in high school,
I know it's so lame.
I question you as a human.
And 100%, most people are not that cool in high school.
Yeah.
Like we didn't, again, no Spicoli in like Hopewell High School.
No.
No one that entertaining. Anyways, thanks everyone for listening to Don't Ruin This For Me. Special thanks to Lincoln Lodge and our producer, Christine Ferreira. And our graphic designer, shout out Jessica Savage.
And to our guest, Amy. Amy, where can the people follow you? Where can they find you?
I have a website, amysumpter.com, and now I actually have to update it.
Okay.
Ooh.
But I'm also, She's Crafty, Chicago's all-female Beastie Boy tribute band, is going to be at Midsummer Fest this summer.
Oh, hell yeah. I saw you guys last year. That was the dopest show.
Okay. So we'll see you.
We'll be there.
See you.
We'll be there. And hey, are you guys looking for even more Adrian and Elizabeth? We know you are. You can check out our Substack newsletters, Where the Fuck's My Happy Ending Is Mine, because I'm really pissed about that. that. And Mixed Race Tape is Elizabeth's, and you can follow the pod on Instagram at Don't Ruin This Pod.
Come back next week to talk about everything Madonna.
This is a long time coming.
As we watch Truth or Dare, and I am trying to get a sex therapist on because I think that would be the best thing for us to have.
And
or like somebody who's like in that culture.
I also want to put a caveat in that I'm somewhat worried that Truth or Dare has weird licensing. Have we even looked to see if we can get it?
Okay, so we're going to say that maybe we're going to come back
Our
next week.
plan is Truth or Dare, but we have not checked to make sure we can get it, and I think it has weird licensing.
Yeah,
but we're going to find out.
Right,
and you
we'll
know what?
find
If not, we'll get a copy of her sex book on eBay.
I love her sex book. I used to have that book.
What would you got rid of it for?
Well, you know, when I left high school and I left
had it in high school?
Yes. No, sorry. Yes, it came out in the early 90s, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I definitely
And I worked
didn't
at a
have it in high school.
I was like, I worked at a record shop, and
okay,
at
so you
that
just
point.
got it.
Yes, and when I moved out of my mom's house to go to college, she just threw all my shit away.
Oh, wow.
Every journal I wrote from
Yeah.
fifth grade till I graduated my senior year of high
Makes
school.
sense.
Like, yeah, it's.
She was
my
like-
mom was like, "You're done."
Reese's all grows up.
Right? She's like, "You're done."
Anyway, hopefully Truth or Dare and Madonna. And if not, you know, we'll see. But hey, friends, don't forget to support middle-aged women's voices. Obviously, it's very important.
Yes.
You heard it today. Rate and review us on Don't Ruin This For Me on your favorite podcast app.
Yep.
All right.
Thanks.
Awesome.
You guys are the best.
Yes.
Simply the best.
Ooh.